Hello again, this is Mr. Montgomery. I'm speaking today from the dining room rather than being in my office. And we'll see if this is a good idea or a bad idea with the dogs and people coming in and out. My son and daughter-in-law are coming over pretty soon, so hopefully we can make it before that. Anyway, this video today is continuing to look at the chapter on groups and teams. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is group goals versus individual goals. So group goals is what does the whole group want to accomplish? Maybe the goal for the group is to raise money for a particular cause, or to read and discuss a book together, or to form a neighborhood watch group. And that's what the group is trying to do. Maybe it's to put together a softball team to participate in a league. But then there are also social goals, that it's not so much the what, but this is the who. That we want to build relationships. We want to hang out with other people in these days of social distancing. Softball leagues are probably not functioning right now, but it's that time of just enjoying being together. And the nice thing about these task goals and the social goals is quite often they can work together, that you can, why not both? You can do both at the same time. You can drive for a task, but enjoy the people that you are working at that task with. Now, but they do raise a certain issue, and that is the idea of hidden agendas. That sometimes some of the group members may be using the team or the group to accomplish something for themselves. An example I thought of is, let's say, maybe you join a group, but for the main reason of impressing your significant other. That your boyfriend or girlfriend's part of the team group, and you just join them. You don't really want to be a part of that group, whether to do what they're doing or to hang out with those people, but you're trying to impress your significant other. And what happens is that the team members are going to feel maybe used and taken advantage of when they don't know your full agenda. Well, the second thing the text talks about is group and team characteristics, and they're going to discuss three different important characteristics of roles and norms, patterns of interaction, and rules. And we'll look at all three of these as we go along here. So first, let's start talking about rules and norms. And they kind of are two related but unique and distinct categories. Rules are the stated expectations of how members are, when they become a part of the group, how they are expected to behave, what they're expected to do, the rules that they're expected to follow. So we start at 7 o'clock, we finish at 9 o'clock, and everybody has a snack duty. You're week 3. And so these are the kind of the rules of how the group functions, and everybody's supposed to follow those rules. Everybody knows the rules. Sometimes maybe a group or a work task is printed out the rules of when they meet, where they meet, how long they meet, and what are the duties. Norms, while they may be no less in place, but they are the unofficial rules, the unprinted expectations. They're never defined anywhere. They're never explicitly gone over by the whole group, but they're just as real and probably can be just as strong. Maybe they're more lax, but they might be just as rigid. And not following the norms, the unwritten rules, can get you in as much trouble or get you kicked out of the group as much as if you break the rules of the group itself. Now, they talk about three different types of norms. First of all, there are social norms. That is, how do we act when we interact in this group? Do we have carefree conversations, or is there an identified leader and you only speak when you are called upon by raising your hand? And again, it's not stated, but you just kind of figure that out. The second one is what are called procedural norms. That is, how are decisions made in the group? Do we take a vote when we decide the next meeting we're going to have, or if we're going to stay overtime? Or is there a boss, kind of a leader of the group, and that's the one who decides when we're done for the evening or when our next meeting is? So is it procedural norms that tell us how we function and make decisions? And then third, there are task norms. how do we get the job done? Does everybody do a fair share of work, or are there just a couple of people who are normally and expected to do the bulk of the work, and the other people, while it would never be stated, their doing work for the group is really not expected or wanted because those couple of people want to do the whole thing. So the second area is what are called patterns of interaction. And the textbook has some very interesting little pictures that you've seen, drawing little arrows between different members of the group, and it shows how the patterns of interaction go on. And again, these are never described or defined by the group. They're never clarified. But if you sit back and watch and listen to how communication in the group goes on, you will notice certain patterns develop. For example, person A talks to person B but never talks to person C. Person D talks to everybody in the group all the time. And person E talks a lot and too much, but person F barely ever speaks to anybody at all. They just kind of like being there, but they don't really want to talk that much. So, but you would notice a pattern in fact, it happens in a classroom, it happens in a family. People interact in certain predictable ways if you watch and notice over time. Now, the textbook lays out 3 different patterns of interaction for us. First of all, what they call the all-channel network. This is where everybody is sharing the same information with everybody else. And they give the example of an email. An email is sent out to everybody, and everybody gets the same information. There's nobody left out. Everybody knows what everybody else knows, and it's fairly evenly distributed. The second type is what is called the chain network, where A communicates with B, B communicates with C, C communicates with D, D communicates with E, and so on. And they say that this is effective for simple messages. We're meeting at the softball field at 6 o'clock to warm up before the game at 7. Just pass that on to the next person. And that's pretty well. But if it's a complex message, then it can get confused and edited, either intentionally or unintentionally. Maybe somebody leaves somebody out of the loop and then it breaks down. All sorts of things can go wrong. But if you remember the game of, what was it called, Post Office, where you would tell somebody would tell you a sentence and then you would try to repeat it, and that person would take what you said and repeat it to the next person, and we would see how confused it got by the end. So simple, straightforward message communication, great, but if it's more convoluted, you don't want to use the chain network process. And then the third is the wheel network, where there is one person who metaphorically is in the center of things, and then they pass the same communication off to the different people, but they're kind of the hub of the wheel. And they're kind of in charge. And you can see how that might be a very powerful position, that you're controlling information. And you can decide who's going to get it or who isn't. And somebody with integrity will do their very best to get everybody the information. But somebody who maybe has some hidden agendas or some plans or wants to be in charge likes that idea of having the control. And they can, again, edit the message, intentionally leave somebody out they don't like, and so it may not always be the best method of communication. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video here, and I'm going to start another one in a couple of moments.